But what Donald Trump represents right now is something that is well beyond conservative versus liberal or left versus right or anything else. It's a restoration of the American dream. It is a wide tent party that has now brought in classical liberals, not only like myself, but Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who will be in the administration itself, or someone like...
Just to be clear, like when you talk about like classical liberalism, I think that you're generally talking about things like, you're generally talking about, I feel like classical liberalism is almost like your kind of like Bill of Rights plus capitalism. Like you're talking about like freedom of the press, freedom, like right to organize assembly, freedom, religion, like capitalistic environments where you have like, I guess like broadly speaking, when you say classical liberalism, I don't think that, I wonder if they even mention populism in here. Classical liberal parties worldwide. I don't like these political labels that are too like nebulous to like actually like iron or like pin down. Like if you would ask Dave Rubin, what is a classical liberal? I wonder what he would say, because Donald Trump is like very squarely and clearly a populist. But I don't even know if people know when they say that. I don't know. This is why I don't like political labels. I think I said this years ago. Yeah. But it feels weird to be like whatever classical liberal is, I think that would stand in staunch opposition to isolationism and protectionism as like economic policy. Like I think that would be pretty, I think those things would be contrary no matter how you define classical liberal, but I don't even know what he means. It's just like, this is like a phrase that he likes and he just says it. He's emoting.
Of the American dream. It is a wide tent party that has now brought in classical liberals, not only like myself, but Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who will be in the administration itself, or someone like Elon Musk, who is basically a default lefty his entire life. And it has brought them in...
Like Elon Musk was a default lefty his entire life. Like, what does that even mean? Like if I were to break down, like, what did he just say here? Like, what, like classical liberals, like, Tulsi, did he say classical liberals like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK? Is that
of the American dream? It is a wide tent party that has now brought in classical liberals, not only like myself, but Tulsi Gabbard and RFK, who will...
Like, what is the political alignment between the three of those people? Like, what is he saying anything at all?
Be in the administration itself, or someone like Elon Musk, who is basically a default lefty his entire life. And it has brought them in conversation and in government and in culture with Republicans who tend to be more for the old institutions and more for, let's say, pro-capitalism, things of that nature. This has created a pro-America movement that I think almost everyone in America can get on board. Now, as it pertains to Anna, yes, I was part of the Young Turks Network about a decade ago. We were very, very good friends. She was invited to my wedding. We hung out all the time. I did see her on your show about 2 weeks ago.
Well, for those who didn't, let me stop you there, because for those who didn't, I want to play two clips. One, this is for those who may be coming cold to this. One is a sort of mashup of some of the things she said about you before. Then I'm going to play a clip of what she said on...
Yeah, I feel like when people like Dave Rubin say lefty, or they used to be strong Democrats, or they used to be liberal, it feels like what people mean is that like they didn't hate gay people 10 years ago, and that's it. And as long as that was like, as long as you had that, then you were like a hardcore Democrat, a hardcore lefty, a hardcore, like, it's like, that's it? Is that, I don't know. One might say that Bill Maher, for example, is a classical liberal rather than a classical, or is a classic liberal rather than a classical liberal. Oh, I don't even know what the distinction there would be, unless by classic liberal you just mean like an old school Democrat. Bill Maher actually is one of the few guys. Actually, Bill Maher and Sam Harris are two guys that stand pretty independent politically, I think. I respect both of them for that. I think I disagree with Bill Maher on quite a few things, but how can we be sure we're on the right side? How can half the country believe in such unhinged shit? I'm starting to doubt myself, LOL. Well, I mean, the first question you would ask is like, well, is the other side presenting like legitimate arguments? It seems like the obvious answer is no, because when you do any research whatsoever on any of the talking points, they fall apart immediately. Then the second question is, well, can anybody challenge that? That seems like the answer is obviously no. All of these people are very conflict averse and will not have any of their beliefs challenged. Then the third question to go deeper would be, do you have some kind of epistemic flaw? Like, is there a way that you research or arrive at truthful statements that is like somehow fundamentally flawed? The other side probably hasn't even asked this question before. I don't think the answer there is yes. Nobody's able to provide a counterexample. So yeah, I don't know.
This show 2 weeks ago. So let's watch the two things.
He was lazy when he worked here. He's lazy now with his ridiculous show where he proves time and time again that he doesn't know anything. He has no political identity. He is not an honest actor. He is not an intellectual. He is a fraud. But if you are someone who considers yourself libertarian, consider the fact that Dave Rubin is a public figure who represents you, and he doesn't actually genuinely believe in your ideology. And he's going around the country embarrassing you. You need to at least know your shit and know how to back up your argument. Even if it's like a BS argument, you need to have an argument. Yeah. And he doesn't even do the legwork to be a grifter, right? Look.
Watching you helped me realize a lot of my opinions weren't fully based in fact. Lay DOD audit. It's helped to watch you, and I'm more confident in looking up info before jumping to conclusions. Well, that's good, I guess, yeah.
Look, I don't know. Maybe I was wrong about Dave Rubin, but I just felt that he, first of all, after he left TYT, he did lie about us, and that bothered me because we were still friends, and I didn't understand what was going on. He did leave on good terms, so it was weird. And, you know, he kept saying that he was this classical liberal.
Like, now this isn't fair to Anna because I'm literally just going by clips that Piers has. But, like, so was that the reason why you trashed Dave Rubin, is because he was mean to you? Or, like, what? Is that really it?
We're still friends, and I didn't understand what was going on. He did leave on good terms, so it was weird. And, you know, he kept saying that he was this classical liberal, but had trouble defining what that meant and had trouble reinforcing or at least backing up some of the claims that he was making about, you know, his newfound identity.
Why is Rubin getting so much attention recently? I thought he felt like it would go hard and no one behind the scenes could stand him. I haven't heard about the behind the scenes thing. He has fallen off pretty hard. I don't know if he's getting so much attention or if he's just been on a few peer shows. Hold on, let's speed through this real quick. I'm curious. This was 7 years ago. Why I'm still a liberal. How many times is he going to use the word freedom? 7 years ago, what was happening? We were in 2016. 7 years ago, why I'm still a liberal. I believe in freedom. I just think that the left doesn't stand for freedom anymore. The right stands for freedom. That's my guess for what the whole video will be about.
For the last show of 2016, let's unpack the two words that everything circled back to for me this past year: classical liberalism. We've had many conversations on the Rubin Report focusing on classical liberalism and how this political philosophy is different than both progressivism and libertarianism for subtle but important reasons. For those of you who are a little late to the party, classical liberalism can be defined as a political ideology that values the freedom of individuals, including the freedom of religion, speech, press, assembly, and markets, as well as limited government. It developed in 18th century Europe and drew on the economic writings of Adam Smith and the growing notion of social progress. So as you can see, freedom is right at the top of the pyramid of importance to a classical liberal. You have freedom to practice any religion you want or none at all. Freedom of the press to hold the government accountable, freedom of assembly to protest those in power, and freedom for the markets to move the economy. All of these are vital in the eyes of a classical liberal. These ideas are rooted in the liberty of the individual and a limited government. Of course, when you say things like liberty and individual and limited government, these words are usually thought of as libertarian or conservative ideas. This is why some of my critics say I'm actually a right-winger. I'm not bothered by this charge because it doesn't even make sense if you understand the original meaning of liberalism as I just laid out. When people say to me, you're not a liberal, what they're really trying to say is you're not a progressive. I'll get to more on that in just a second.
This like fighting over like what the words mean. Like, yeah, we use liberal for Democrat and we use conservative for Republican here. Those are just like, it's just like common parlance. It doesn't, like, why are we trying to say that people are trying to attack? Like, that's why I hate the political label shit. I think like around this time period when I got into politics, I think I was like very much against political labels. I think the thing I used to say, and it's kind of true, that basically as soon as you give a political label, you have to spend like 2 minutes saying all the things that you're not once you've given that political label. Like, oh, well, I'm a progressive, but I don't believe like in the crazy trend stuff, or I don't believe in this, whatever. Like, oh, I'm a conservative, but I don't necessarily support Trump, and I'm not necessarily in favor of this, or blah, blah, blah. Like, it just feels like, what the fuck is the point of these?
A true liberal is for gay marriage because they believe a gay person should have the same rights as a straight person. A true liberal is pro-choice because they believe it is the right of the woman to do with her body as she sees fit. A true liberal is for legalization of marijuana because you should be allowed to smoke whatever you want in your own home. A lot of this sounds like libertarianism, which I know is scary for a lot of card-carrying liberals to hear, but this is exactly where we can start building bridges to a new political center. So what then is the difference between a classical liberal and a libertarian? And how is a classical liberal not on the right? There's a couple things at play here. First off, there's the dirty little truth that classical liberalism is technically more a part of the American right because of the importance it puts on individual freedom. I know a lot of liberals don't want to hear that or believe that they could be part of the right, and I also know that the left-right paradigm is rapidly crumbling as the two-party system is becoming more archaic. The reason liberalism became so identified with the left is because of social liberalism, which took over in the mid-19th century. For a while, this brand of liberalism worked and helped tremendously, causing huge social change like equality for black people and for women. At some point, though, social liberalism changed from judging people on the content of their character, as Martin Luther King Jr. professed, to instead judging people on immutable characteristics like skin color or sexuality. This was the shift that liberalism made to progressivism, which places the group over the individual, and ultimately, in my opinion, isn't very progressive or liberal at all. By judging people as groups instead of as individuals, the minorities within a minority will always be thrown under the bus. This is where the social justice ideology came from. A liberalism which was rooted in the amorphous term social instead of the clearly defined word liberty. That's why being liberal these days, in the classical sense, has very little to do with being on the left.
Is there something wrong with his lighting here? It's just very even and very dead. There's no contrast or shadow
anymore. Silencing dissent, deplatforming speakers, hurling unfair charges of racism and bigotry aren't liberal ideas at all, although sadly they've become part and parcel of today's left. As I often say, the road to hell is paved with good intentions, and I have no doubt that most progressives believe they are correct in their thinking. So it's our job as liberals to show them where they've gone awry. Then and only then can true liberalism be part of the left again. As I mentioned before, I love the convergence.
Do you agree with everything he's saying? What's even wrong? He's not saying anything. He's not even wrong. He's not saying anything. It's just like quabbling over what the political labels mean, or everything is just a waste of time.
Classical liberal and libertarian ideas, because it shows that two different ideologies can come to the same conclusions if they're based in individualism and liberty. So if you're a liberal who's for gay marriage because you want gay people to be treated under the law, that's just as good as a libertarian who wants the government out of your personal life altogether. There's many other places where you can apply this line of thinking, which begs the question,
that's not even true. But
what's the difference actually between a classical liberal and a libertarian? I've discussed this with a few guests in my partnership with Learn Liberty, and would recommend that you check out my interviews with Steve Davies of the London School of Economics and Randy Barnett from Georgetown University for more on that. Long story short, classical liberals do see some valid role for government to the ends that it enhances human freedom. Libertarians, for as much as you can define them, are a bit harder to pin down on this notion. Speaking of Learn Liberty, we're continuing our partnership with them this week, and joining me is author of 17 books, 17 books, economist and former professor of English, history, economics, and communications at the University of Illinois at Chicago, Deirdre McCloskey. Deirdre also happens to be transgender, transitioning to female over 20 years ago. We'll talk about her journey both personally and professionally, and how individualism, liberty, and freedom are the keys to a prosperous economy and a rewarding life. As we look towards 2017, let's refocus on freedom, liberty, and the rights of the individual. The voices trying to tear us apart have made it very clear that they're only going to get louder and angrier. Russia and fake news are not the problem. We are. Only when we look in the mirror and are willing to challenge ourselves to be more tolerant of other opinions.
okay.
So, Dave, there we have it in all its inglorious fashion, all the digs she had at you, then what she said online, which she herself, of course, was pivoting. What's your response?
Well, first off, I should note you don't have 10 years of videos of me saying anything about her, because we did leave on good terms. As a matter of fact, when I told her I was leaving, we went to Zinc on Melrose. I took her out for sangria, and she cried that because I was leaving, and I was bringing my producer with me. But putting that aside for a moment, if I can't explain any of my ideas, well, somehow this became a New York Times bestseller where I lay out all my classically liberal beliefs, and I've discussed them with you many times, and I believe in laissez-faire.
Don't they have like 20 different categories of New York Times bestsellers? I feel like if you can sell like 100 books, I wonder if I could have a New York Times bestseller. It just feels really easy to like
economics, and I believe in individual rights and all that. But what I would say, I think she's a little...
Oh no. Am I making this up? Or did we read part of this book a long time ago and he like fucks up, like he's trying to explain philosophy and he fucks up like the difference between like validity and soundness or something? Did we do this? Am I like, it was just like some stupid part of the, am I making, does anybody remember this? Where am I? Old fans.
A little confused and perhaps was lied to.
Oh, no, that might have been Molyneux's book. Never mind. Okay, just kidding.
About by her employers, about some of my behaviors or something like that. But I love the idea of anyone going through their own political evolution. You know, one of the things is that people go through it often in varying speeds. So I always say some people swallow the red pill and some people snort it, right? Some people just wake up overnight and they fully see it. I think one of the things that you have to do when you wake up is realize that many people have gone through this before you and that you might have wronged some people on the way there. So I was very glad to hear her say that she might have been wrong about Dave Rubin. Look, all it takes, honestly, like I know you know this, Piers, you've been in this game longer than me. You don't get any apologies in this business, and I don't like making things really about myself in that sense. But genuinely, if there was a mea culpa there or just a simple apology, maybe I didn't see things right about you, Dave, or whatever, I would gladly welcome anyone. And I don't mean to make this about her. If you're waking up to the ideas of liberty and limited government, especially post-COVID, and seeing what this ridiculous Democratic Party has become, and you want to agree to disagree and dive into the ideas and have that battle, I will do that with absolutely anybody. So look, an apology probably, I would say, would be warranted, but I don't sit there and wait for it. And I think there are much bigger forces at play here than just the interpersonal battle of two people.
Out of interest, I mean, if I could make it happen, would you debate her?
Yes.
Uncensored?
100. I said that on my show after we played that clip. If I'd be happy to do it with her live, just the two of us in studio. If you want to be the host or moderator, I'll do it under any condition, because again, I think there's something, I think it now represents something that could be unbelievably good for America.
Yeah.
Like she would, of course he would love the debater, because they wouldn't have an actual debate. It would just be a giant circle jerk. Like when, oh my God, what was this disgusting fucking conversation? It was, with Glenn Beck. This was insane. This was just an unbelievable conversation. Oh my God.
Progressives who have called everybody racists and bigots and impugn motives. I mean, people just watch that compilation right there. Always going after people in the worst nature. If you've now woke up, and from what I understand, I've seen some of her tweets, she's now being attacked the same way she attacked me. So I would say, much like Bruce Willis said in Die Hard, welcome to the party, pal. But we can be on the same side, even if we still have political disagreements. Okay, we don't agree on the marginal tax rate or the immigration rates or something like that. If you love America, if you think this place is fundamentally good, if we still have a country that will offer more opportunity for any other place and you want to be part of that, yes, whatever the circumstances are, or the moderator is or isn't, I'd be happy to do it. But if it's you,
why would Anna be doing these things? Is it a different tactic, or is she just mind broke? I don't know. I think I've kind of abandoned the mental models that I have for people that work in this space, or they're very much like in flux right now. I'm not actually sure. I don't know how much she actually believes versus how much is like a grift versus how much is like she got bullied, so now she's changed, versus how much is like she just wants to make money off of the current environment. I truly don't understand now. I don't know. I'm not sure if any of these people are genuine at all. It's hard to say.
that would be great.
You know, what's really interesting about what you just said, I totally agree with you, by the way, but if you look at Trump's picks for his cabinet, for example, they are so diverse in terms of their views, right across the board. I mean, if they all got together, they'd be arguing about all sorts of stuff, which I'm all in favor of. This kind of, rigid ideology where you have to all sign up to one.
Do you believe that the truth will ultimately prevail, or is it over? I mean, the truth will always ultimately prevail, but that's not always like a good thing, or that doesn't mean that the outcome is like the best thing. Like, for instance, let's say that we decide that we can build a platform over the ocean, and that platform can only hold 1 million people, and then we ship 10 million people to live on the platform. Like, eventually the truth will prevail, but I mean, the truth is going to be all 10 million people drowning, right? So I mean, like, this
one viewpoint about everything. There'll be people in there that completely disagree with RFK, for example, about some of his views. Good. Have that debate.
Course.
Have that debate. This is what democracy is supposed to be built on.
Of course, this is the beauty of what Trump is doing right now. And really, you can connect that so deeply. I mean, I would recommend anyone go back on YouTube. You can find Donald Trump on Phil Donahue or Oprah or a whole bunch of these shows back in the 80s, and he sounds like a Democrat. So Donald Trump is not a traditional conservative. I would actually argue that Donald Trump's own political evolution...
And like this, like, these guys are having a political conversation that's like 8 years out of date. Like these guys are acting like they're talking in 2014 on the end of like Obama's administration. Like, okay, like Democrats and Republicans. Like, no, these political lines don't even exist like this anymore.
Probably, Piers, is much more in line with guys like you and me than say George Bush or Dick Cheney or someone that might, you think of as a sort of standard bearer for republicanism. So the fact that he is now going to bring in people who quite literally were running against him for president only 6 months ago, RFK Jr., and someone who ran against him for president on the other side, Tulsi, only 4 years ago, that shows you what's bringing them together. What's bringing them together is a love for America, a realization that we have been on the precipice of giving away the most precious, beautiful experiment in human history on how to free people ever. And I think Donald Trump actually now sees that. I also think that post-assassination attempt, I think he has a renewed fervor and sort of realization of what his...
Do you think that they're having that out-of-date conversation on purpose, or they believe it? I just don't think Rubin is. I don't know who would even. I don't know why anybody would watch Dave Rubin. I don't know what the appeal is at all.
Role in life is, and that's the opportunity that, again, not to make this about Anna specifically, but anyone that's going through a wake up. We know so many people have woken up. I mean, look, for me, I think it was 2016. I did that Why I Left the Left video for PragerU. You want everyone to get there the day you do, but you have to be gracious when people come around one way or another.
Yeah. Well, let's bring in my other panel members, because some of them are definitely going on a very interesting journey, including new MAGA enthusiast Cenk Uygur. I said that deliberately to wind him up. The host and founder of the Young Turks. Libertarian Dave Smith, host of Part of the Problem. Lindy Lee, the DNC Finance Committee member and advisor, and former woke activist turned YouTuber, Amala Ekpunobi. Well, welcome to all of you. So, Cenk, I mean, many people saying if you carry on down the road you're going in the last few weeks, you will be a fully fledged member of MAGA before we know it.
Yeah, there's absolutely no chance of that. I'm not like Dave Rubin, a giant sellout fraud who changed all of his positions and is totally useless, and it shouldn't even be on here. He's just a waste.
So, like, I want to say based Cenk, but I don't even know if this is like Cenk fighting Rubin politically, or if he just like personally hates him because of like the history at the Young Turks and everything, But
absolutely no chance of that. I'm not like Dave Rubin, a giant sellout fraud who changed all of his positions and is totally useless, and it shouldn't even be on here. He's just a waste of space.
Wow. Really? After what all Dave said about coming together?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I've got no interest in coming together with utter frauds like Dave Rubin. So, brother, you telling me...
So, like, how do you square this away with all of Cenk's rhetoric recently about, like, oh, the MAGA people, we can align on things? Like, is this just, like, a personal beef? Or, I don't know, let's...
Yeah, no, I've got no interest in coming together with utter frauds like Dave Rubin. So, brother, you telling me that when you were on the Young Turks, you were Mr. Progressive and you agreed with us 100%. Now, all of a sudden, you agree with Trump 100%. You're not saying something nuanced like we are. Hey, when the guy gets shot at and he puts his fist up, that's courageous. When he does the McDonald's photo op, it works fine, no problem, right? If he wants to cut the Pentagon, great. Those are progressive positions. Anti-corruption, progressive position. Anti-war, progressive position. But you change all of your ideology overnight and you expect us to believe that that's real? I don't think it's real at all. And I want an apology from you for all the crazy, outrageous lies that you told about the Young Turks. When is that going to happen, huh? Wow. When are you going to admit that you changed all your positions for money? Okay, well, what position do you still have that's in any way a so-called classic liberal? You fraud,
Dave.
Piers, it's barely worth responding to this ridiculous buffoon who's the joke of the industry. But I will say this, Cenk, I haven't spoken to you in 10 years.
Even right when you're thinking you're a total fraud.
I don't think he's a fraud or a joke. I think Dave Rubin is, for what it's worth, I think Dave Rubin is one of the most influential and significant voices out there right now. And I admire his honesty about the journey he's been on, Cenk.
Piers, I appreciate that, but the thing is, what Cenk just proved is exactly what everyone in America, and I would say all over the world, is getting over. Nobody wants what he just offered up there. Not only does no one believe it, and he had it prepackaged and ready to go, and it's complete drivel. Yes, I sold out. It's so nonsensical. Again, Cenk, I'll gladly send you a signed copy of the book, and you can read all of my thoughts. And if you're anti-corruption and you're anti-war, you should be on the Trump train. But your endless hatred, the division that you so
this is like all a performance, right? Like, is he going to respond to a single thing that Cenk said? Not only is he not going to respond to anything Cenk said, Cenk's not going to probably follow up on it. He'll do a different attack, which I don't blame. That's not Cenk's fault. That's how debates work, or your mind you're going for it. But Piers isn't going to force him to answer. He's not going to answer, and then it's just like you're just like screaming at each other.
Calling everyone racist and white supremacist, all of that stuff. It's why you're not respected. But I don't mean to get into the personal side of that. I'm talking about now.
Like who? did Cenk even call him racist or white supremacist? Did I miss that?
Everyone racist and white supremacist, all of that stuff, it's why you're not respected. But I don't mean to get into the personal side of that. I'm talking about now something that culturally has shifted, and everyone can see the grift that you're up to trying to sort of dance with the thing, but it's just not necessary, and I don't think that many people will buy it.
Well, Cenk, let me put to you, Cenk.
Okay,
Laura, hang on, Cenk, hang on. I'm going to read you something just to see your reaction. But Laura Loomer called you out on X, as you know, and she said this: "You are the radical left, Cenk Uygur. You're a con artist and an opportunistic grifter who's gotten rich off demonizing President Trump, calling his..."
Like, we're citing, I'm sorry, political analysis expert Laura Loomer? Really?
Supporters, fascists, and Nazis, promoting open borders, glorifying Hamas, and pushing conspiracy theories about Trump for 9 years. If you want forgiveness, get on your filthy knees and pray to Allah, because you aren't welcome on the right, and you aren't ever going to find redemption, arc, no matter how hard you pander. And she goes on and on. You aren't welcome on the right, and you aren't ever going to find a redemption arc, no matter how hard you pander. And she goes on and on. I'm going to keep calling you out every time you try to move an inch closer to many on the right, because you're too dense and too dumb, because they're too dense and too dumb to decode your subversion, but I'm not. So look, there are lots of people on the right who think that you're on some great...
Are we just gonna like kind of move past the, okay, Jesus.
Move here to, as she puts it, wiggle your way into the middle and over to the right, so you can then poison MAGA with your, as she puts it, subhuman political takes. Your thoughts?
Yeah. Okay, so look.
Notice how Ruben said, I'm not even going to waste my time responding to what Cenk just said, because nobody wants that. America rejected that kind of rhetoric. And now he just read Laura Loomer talking about how Cenk needs to get on his knees and pray to Allah. What the fuck? Okay.
This is, people like Laura Loomer and Dave Rubin are the exact problem. And I think actually somebody else on this panel that was part of the solution, that's Dave Smith. And I want to come back to that in a second. So when you have people like Dave Rubin switch all of their positions, what happens is when you go to do nuance and you say, hey guys, hold on, let me explain, hold on. Yeah. Hey, go pleasure Trump again.
Oh, they're giving him the destiny treatment. Rubin's mic is getting cocked.
Again, go pleasure Trump again.
Do you know that
he goes from Bernie to Trump and pretends. Come on, brother. Come on, brother.
I tell people
what do you believe in? You believe in something yesterday, you don't believe in anything today.
Yeah, what position? What position do you think I hold that I don't honestly believe?
Can I answer the question?
Yeah.
Can I answer the question? Can I answer Trump?
Yeah, what position do I...
Okay, we have a particular question. That's good. A pointed question. Okay, Cenk needs to provide one position that he feels like Dave Rubin has switched on. One position.
Say that I believe that I don't really believe. Go ahead.
Brother, you went on Fox News with Tucker Carlson. You went on Tucker Carlson on Fox News and said gay people, that the fact that the fire department was recruiting gay people was why there was forest fires. You're a national embarrassment, okay?
Wait, let him answer that. Was that true? Did you say that? Is that an acceptable position? What did he say? Let's find out if Cenk is summarizing that correctly. Dave Rubin, fire department, Tucker Carlson, gay people. Oh, they covered it.
So that's a great point, Anna. I just last night...
As wildfires rage in the state of California, Dave Rubin has decided that as a person currently residing in the state, he is going to go on Tucker Carlson's Fox show and show everyone that he can make anything about identity politics.
PG&E strikes me as almost a metaphor for the destruction of the state. So here's the utility.
This guy was going on Tucker Carlson 5 years ago? Jesus, okay.
Which doesn't really...
Go back, and one video down was the original clip. Oh, this?
And he joins us tonight. So, Dave, thanks so much for coming on. You moved to California because it's a beautiful place, and I agree with that. You've seen it really degrade in the time that you've been there, but PG&E strikes me as almost a metaphor for the...
Just as a quick thing, I don't know if this is going to be a hot take for Californians. If you move to California and you go to live in, I'm not trying to be mean to you, but if you're going to live in San Francisco or LA, you're not moving to California because it's a beautiful place. You're moving there for work. There are a lot of beautiful places in California. The massively huge cities are not those places, okay? So if you go to LA or you go to San Francisco, you're going there because you're going for work and because of the opportunities to connect with people in a network. You're not going because it's a beautiful place to live, because if you were, you would not be living in these two places, all right?
Destruction of the state. So here's the utility, which doesn't really know anything about its own infrastructure, but knows everything about the race of its employees. How did we get there?
It's just unbelievable. Look, I've been in LA. I'm in LA right now. I live about a minute away from one of the big fires that's still going. I have friends that are evacuated. Los Angeles, putting politics aside, in Southern California, might be the most beautiful part of the United States. Yes. The problem right now is that everything from academia to public utilities to politics, everything that goes woke, that buys into this ridiculous progressive ideology, that cares about what contractors are LGBT or how many black firemen we have or white this or Asian that, everything that goes that road eventually breaks down. It is not how freedom is supposed to operate. What is supposed to...
I think one of the big issues that I have with media too, and I've like changed my framing on this, is like everything that's presented as like basically like a political law is actually just like the most baseline hypothesis ever. Like, oh, okay, so you think wokeness ruined fire departments because of affirmative action? Okay, fine, that can be a hypothesis. Okay, sure. Like, give me something. Go do some research on that. Is there evidence of people being hired who were not qualified? Are they lowering the standards for women, and now there's like a fire truck that fucked up that couldn't like I don't know, spray the hose right. Like, give me, like, you have to do something with that. You can't just give me your, well, you can because it's media and there's no standards, but like, you can't just like give a hypothesis like that. Like, oh, it's the wokeification of everything. Okay, but is it actually? Like,
that everything that goes that road eventually breaks down. It is not how freedom is supposed to operate. What is supposed to happen, Tucker, imagine if your house was on fire. Would you care what the public utility or what the fire company, what contractor they brought in, what gender or sexuality or any of those things he or she was? I mean, it's just absolutely ridiculous.
Who would care?
And right now we've got a situation.
Are there like qualified firefighters that are getting turned down for the job because they're white? Is this happening? Was this happening? There's like all these unemployed firefighters who are like, we want to fight fires. And like, sorry, no, sir. No Nazis today.
Of course you wouldn't care. And we've got a situation right now where we're doing preemptive blackouts in this state, which I think is the 11th largest economy in the entire world. We do preemptive blackouts because they don't want to put too much pressure on the grid. I mean, try to imagine the absurdity of what's going on here. And I hate to tell you, but we just don't have enough clear thinking, say more libertarian or conservative-minded people in California to fight what the progressives are doing to the state.
But if you can't keep the lights on, and you can't keep the place from burning down, you've reached the point where there's no kind of lying about it anymore. Like, it's fallen apart. It's a disaster. It's not civilized anymore.
You know what, if I've learned...
Like, it's not North Carolina's fault, it's not Georgia's fault, and it's not Florida's fault for preparedness for hurricanes, but it is California's fault for having wildfires. Like, I mean, like, natural disasters happen. Like, they suck, and you have to be prepared for them, and, like, there's, you know, very... Like, I'm curious, what did these guys all say about Texas's power grid failure, which was something that was more controllable, but from what I remember... due to the way they divvy up and sell power in that state, which is, I think, unique from every other state in the union, that has to do with like basically free market energy selling, basically like fucked Texas when there was like 2 days where the temperature was below 40 degrees.
Learned anything by living in California and Los Angeles specifically, it's that no matter what happens, ideology seems to trump rationality. Yes, so in the 6 years that I've been here, the amount of homeless encampments have...
what am I doing? Like, what is he saying? Ideology trumps rationality. Fires are spreading in California because of too much wokeness. Like, what, are the fires homophobic? Are they trying to kill all the gay people? Like, what do we even... From what I understand, departments are looking for more firefighters. I feel like I have heard the severely understaffed. From my understanding, I'm speaking a bit colloquially here, I think basically everybody in the US, except for like tech, is desperately looking for, or not colloquially, but anecdotally, I guess. I'm pretty sure every industry in the US is like desperately looking for workers. We have like a starving economy for workers where we are desperately looking for people to fill positions. Thank God we're about to deport 20 million of them.
Ideology seems to trump rationality. Yes, so in the 6 years that I've been here, the amount of homeless encampments have expanded. Virtually every exit you get off the 405 or the 101, there are now homeless people sitting right there, or actually that have basically built structures at the exits. Now it's like if raising taxes on everybody... and
nobody in California gives a fuck about wildfires. There will always be more. Shit grows in the spring, dies in the summer, and burns in the fall every year, no matter what. I'm pretty sure around here... I'm trying to think. I don't think there were any bad ones when I lived there. But my understanding is the fire shit in California gets really annoying when you have to start doing your rolling brownouts, I think, in order to maintain your power grid because of like wildfires and shit, which seemed kind of annoying. I do think there were a lot of Californians that were complaining about that a few years ago.
People sitting right there, or actually that have basically built structures at the exits. Now it's like if raising taxes on everybody and supposedly the progressive policies that care about poor people, if these things worked, wouldn't the places that progressive policies were enacted, wouldn't there be less homeless? Wouldn't there be less gun violence? All the things that they talk about. But no, there's always more. This is not a coincidence. These policies don't work. But if you just don't really think about them, if you think, oh, we just have to throw money at things, and...
Why do you never have an example? Okay, well, what do the Republicans have? What is your positive example? Like, what are the Republican or conservative cities that we should all be modeling ourselves after?
And they magically get better while you do whatever you want to do in your life and don't want to really think about the issues, then it all works. And that's what we all have to